Yeah. So turn it. The other side said over. Turn it over. Or if you're going the other way, you say overturn it. Sometimes today that's probably what you want to do. Overturn it. We're gonna have an overturning. We have a revolution. We have a revolution of mind anyway.
Don't
right?
tell Marley that.
Right? Overturn it. Barney's somehow. I think Barney's thinking that for I don't know. He must believe in corporal punishment or something. Oh, so this turning it over. I sent out the text, and the text was renunciation. And if you've ever thought about renunciation, I don't know if any of you brought up like Catholic or maybe Episcopalian, or even if you were brought up Buddhist. This renunciation thing pretty much means the same thing to if you were going to be a priest or a nun or a monk. This renunciation would mean that you left home and gave up the bodily life. Well, first you give up sex. And that's of course that's what comes to everybody's mind. This renunciation. But it was more than that. You give up your worldly possessions. Was a big going to renounce everything of the material world. In the practice, though, there's quite a bit of subtlety in this renunciation. Justice. Can I have it? Because I'm not going to. Thank you very much. Okay. All right. So, I will later. Later, I will be shooting you. So this renunciation actually goes along with our practice in the recovery programs of a third step. Or if you're just doing this from week to week, if you're just kind of following, if you're not in a recovery program, you're just thinking about these interesting ideas that have nothing to do with you as we go through it each week. But this renunciation, this kind of, because this third step is about release. It's about giving up a measure of control, which really, this control was really illusory to begin with. I mean, we thought we've had control. And maybe for a few precious seconds, we may have been in control of certain situations. But generally speaking, the ego keeps screwing up all of these areas where we think we're in control for a minute, and all we want to do is get it back. Now, the other thing about renunciation is so it doesn't mean to give up pleasure. It just means that when you're in a pleasurable situation, renunciation would mean that you don't need to cling to the pleasure. You don't need to grasp onto it. You don't need to try to let it not get away, to hold on to a moment. This idea of renunciation allows moment by moment to go forward without us trying to hold on to something. So we've seen this many times in our lives and maybe not even noticed it. We'll get in our relationships. We get into a relationship and maybe it has a certain flavor to it at the beginning. And when that flavor starts to go away, we may panic and think, oh, the relationship's falling apart. And so we want to hold on to that particular sense, right? And all that's really happening is the relationship is developing. It's just changing. But if we think we've got to grasp on to this one particular experience in the relationship, and maybe we even say something to our partner, we're like, oh man, it's not like it used to be. Or maybe we're afraid to say something, right? But then we end up messing up what it's growing into because we're trying to grasp something that's fading. So to renounce that would then to say, okay, what I'm going to do is I'm just going to go with the flow. I'm just going to let things flow along. Now then there's the other piece that comes in that is the aversion. And the aversion is trying to avoid some painful experience. So part of this renunciation is to give up that fleeing from pain, fleeing from uncomfortable situations. And so in relationships especially, what we've had this discussion before where we talk about neither pursue nor avoid. So let's say we're in a kind of a relationship where we don't actually know what's happening. Maybe we've had a little, and this could be romantic, and that's where everybody's mind goes right away. It could be romantic, but it could just be a friendship. It could just be, but the idea here with renunciation is neither pursue nor avoid, meaning that what I won't do is if we're having if there's a lull in things and I've got this need, I want to fix it. I want to make it better, so I'm going to keep calling this person. I'm going to keep texting this person. Stop. Just stop. Wait a minute. Hold on, right? And then on the other hand, the other person contacts us, right? So we see it and go, oh no, that's it. That's no good either, right? So we would respond now. We say, well, this person's stalking me, right? Okay, maybe that's the case, but there is a response that would be appropriate for each time somebody contacts us. And I don't have the answer for that, right this minute, because every situation is going to be different. But so neither pursue nor avoid would mean I'm not chasing after somebody else, and if they do contact me, then I respond appropriately. If they're chasing after me, that's one answer. I'm not going to even say what that is. But if it's just them reaching out, then it's another answer, right? So the renunciation would be, I'm leaving this in the hands of a power greater than myself. I'm going to try to be guided into how I'm going to respond in this particular situation. So the step itself says we made a decision to turn our will and our lives over to the care of God as we understood him. Now, you can think about God however you want. And here we never try to put that on anybody. Whatever you think, you could just, in this particular case especially, you could think about God as just being the love. You could think about God as just being the whatever fellowship you're involved in, whatever community you're involved in, whatever, and this could really work well, whatever discipline you're involved in. So you could turn your will and your life over to a set of principles. And for a lot of people who don't want to think about, who don't believe in a sentient higher power, then this idea of turning it over to a set of principles makes a lot more sense for them. But actually, it works best if you think about turning it over to all three. If you can work with that, right? So in the Buddhist practice says these are the refuges. The three refuges are the Buddha, the Dharma, and the Sangha. And the Buddha is just, you could think about it, Buddha consciousness, Buddha nature, Christ consciousness, God as you understand him or her, or just your higher consciousness. You think about the Buddha as being better yet, your highest self, your highest and best self. And when I say that, everybody here has an idea about what that means. Your highest and best self. That which you aspire to, and sometimes you may not even think it's in you, but you know that it is. So this would be the Buddha, and then the Dharma is the principles, the steps, the teachings, whatever teachings that you're involved in. And the Sangha is the community or the fellowship or just you and another person for the purposes of that instance, right? So make a decision to turn will and life over to the care of that three thing. And there's a symbol for it too. I was thinking about getting a big tattoo of the symbol for that, those three refuges. I don't know where to get it yet, like right here? Okay. So, all right. So what we're turning over, this is another important point, that our will is not bad. That's like really important. When you hear when somebody makes references like, "Oh, he's very willful," he's not. They're not actually referring to the positive aspect of will. They're referring to self-will. They're referring to the will of the ego, the will that wants to grasp and to own and to hold on to things. The exact opposite of the renunciation. The self-will wants to hold on, keep things comfortable, protect itself, get what it wants, and then on the other side, it wants to avoid as much pain as possible. This is the self-will. It wants to be like, and it's full of fear. And then there's goodwill, and this is you can say God's will if you like. So we've got self-will, and we got goodwill, and this step is about saying I'm going to align my will with goodwill. So my will stands in the middle as the ability to make the choice between self-will and goodwill. And this is where, can't be walking around saying stuff like the devil made me do it, or what you commonly hear in fellowships is, the disease made me do it. It's like somehow or other this disorder has taken over our mind and made us do something. Now there is a time when we're totally caught up, when that's the truth, because we've lost the power of will. But once we've got some abstinence, then this ability to decide is present again. And most people, when you talk to them, if they did get caught up back in some addictive behavior, if you talk to them for long enough, it'll be uncovered that there was a choice made somewhere. That somewhere along the line there was a choice made to go down that road, right? So our will then is this power of choice, the ability to decide between the self-will and goodwill. And goodwill is, and this is a theme that comes up pretty much every week, because it's like it's what we want to exist in. We want to exist in the field of goodwill. We want to be in that place mentally and spiritually where what we're actually thinking about is the common welfare. Because here lies the peace. When we're concerned with the common welfare, and this is important, I always want to make the distinction. I'm not talking about the individual being sacrificed for the good of a larger group, because this is always wrong principally, and it's kept us in wars for untold thousands of years, and it is not a sound principle. So when I say the common welfare, I am saying what's best for all of us. The common welfare is what's best for us all, without anybody being sacrificed. And this is a mindset. Now I understand that we live in a world where that we will see contradiction to that principle all the time. But that doesn't mean that the principle is not correct. That just means that we have decided as a society that we are not going to follow the principle. And that's what's happened. So, but we can individually decide that we're going to follow the principle. And when we do that, when we try to get our mindset to the common welfare, what we find is that what was best for everyone involved actually was what was best for us. Even though the ego is trying to tell us, no, we're going to cheat ourselves out of something. We're not going to get what we want or need, and and if we're really nice, somebody else is going to take advantage of us, and all of this stuff we find. And the biggest result is we have a certain peace. We get a certain peace about this, not having to be grasping, not having to be out there just trying to snag something, in whatever that may be. Now the first, this practice of turning it over, or this practice of renunciation, works. Today I want to talk about it working on 3 levels. And first, it works on a physical level, and the physical level is just the breath. The physical level is just breathing. So this renunciation, this turning it over, would be illustrated by what some people call a cleansing breath. Okay, so That's it. That's third step. Done. Now you can do step 4. So this is the thing. We can do this over and over again. We do this over and over again all day. If we do it consciously, that's what we're doing. We're doing this third step over and over again every time we take that breath and relax. Now, our partner may think that we're sighing because we're upset about something. Here's the thing, that might be the case. It might have started out as a sigh, but if we put our attention on it, it becomes a renunciation. It becomes a relaxing. It becomes a giving up of whatever our position was, right? And so it could have started out that way. And then you can say, then you can, I don't know, it depends on how hot the situation is. You might want to explain the whole thing, or you might just want to say, oh no, I feel much better now. So that's it. So then mentally, there's this sense of being cared for. This thought about being cared for, right? That actually, even though we live in a dangerous world, I mean, there's just inherent dangers in the world. Now, what I always say is that I think we designed it that way. That's important for me to have that in my mind, that together we just kind of designed it to work this way, because we keep trying to reinforce the ego, which is telling us that it's a dangerous world, right? So individually, we really don't have any control over those dangers. But when we enter into a mindset that life itself is caring for us, God is caring for us, that creation itself is taking care of us, it changes the way we think, and it changes the way we interact with others, and at least it reduces the dangers in the world, because we're not being the spark. So another mental aspect of this is to think about what we're giving. It says we give our will and our life. And our life, I know the first time I actually took this step, I thought about my life as being, the whole business. I'm giving up my life, and I wasn't thinking so much about the past, but I was thinking about when I do this, I'm kind of making this commitment that I'm giving my entire life over to God. That seemed weird. That seemed weird, and it seemed like final, right? But when you think about it in terms of care, then, which is really the important point, all I'm doing is I'm saying I'm giving my life into the care of this power. However I think about the power, I'm saying what I'm making a decision now is I'm going to allow this power to care for me. That's all I'm doing. But then further, I find out that I got resentments in the past and regrets from the past. And they keep coming into my mind. And so then now it seems to be not too bad of an idea for me to take those things and maybe give them to this power greater than myself. So that's important, but I got to get back to that point, but it probably won't happen until next week. But anyway, so then I think about the future. I'm worried about the future. I keep projecting and thinking about this might happen and that might happen, and if and things that I believe are out of my control. Circumstances and events are spinning out of control. If you don't think so, just watch CNN. So I could get all worked up over this, and I start thinking about the future is this dark and foreboding thing. Oh, that might be a good idea if I kind of took that and gave that into the care of this power greater than myself. So my life is what happened in the past, what might happen in the future. Then when I start thinking about this a little bit more, I realize that my life is really actually this moment right now. This is what's happening now. This is life. Life is happening. Life is really not what happened in the past. I guess you could say that's my past life. And what's going to happen in the future, that's my future life. Now, I'm not saying that I don't want to give it over to the care of God, because I do, because then I get to stop worrying about it. But now, right now, the present moment, that's life. That's life. And so I want to give that to the care of God. And this is where then guidance starts to come from. Now I think a lot more of it, I want to give it over to the care of my highest self. And I believe that my highest self is a part of the greater self that we are all a part of. So give the present moment over. Now this principle and this step will work for so many things. If I'm having an issue in life that I just can't resolve, I just take it, and here's what we do. We just, I should have brought some props. I'm just going to see it in my mind, and I'm going to take this thing, I'm going to put it in a box. I'm going to put it in a box. It's right there. It's in the box. And I'm going to get some nice gift paper, and I'm going to wrap it up. All the time I'm seeing my problems in the box. I've wrapped it in some nice paper. I'm going to put a bow on it. And then in my mind again, I'm going to give the box, which has now become a gift, to God. Take this problem. And then the little part of my mind goes, wait a minute, what are you bothering God with all your stupid problems? What are you doing? I mean, God's probably got more important things to do. But this is exactly what Spirit wants. This is exactly what your higher self wants. This is exactly what God wants. It's exactly what Goddess wants. To take your problems. It's like the action of creation. Creation is always extending itself. And so I'm going to take this problem, I'm going to give it to this very power of creation, and something creative is going to happen. So remember, all this is going on in our mind, right? You didn't actually do something. You didn't actually do something in the physical world. It all happened on the inside. So we give it to God. You might even take enough time to think about, maybe write them down. Every single problem, every bad relationship, every person that you're mad at, every person that you think you owe a man, all this stuff, take the whole thing. Take your whole journal, your whole recovery journal, stick it in a box. Wrap it in gift paper, put a bow on it, give it to God. And know this, that what's going to happen is answers will start coming. This is what will occur. Answers will start coming to these issues because we've given them up. Now, if we take them back and start worrying over them again, we're like a dog gnawing on a bone, it's not going to work. Every time we take the problem back, just give it back. Just give it back, give it back, give it back. And eventually, an answer will come. Know that I'm just telling you it's going to happen. So that's the mental aspect, is this visualization of giving these things up. So spiritually, it's a sense of being cared for. It is the establishment of goodwill. It is the establishment of goodwill as a quality within. This is the spiritual aspect of this principle. The establishment of this quality of goodwill. Now, just for a moment, some of you here are in NA, but I'm going to just describe something. It'll work for it. Well, maybe it'll work. I don't know. But just in a moment right now, visualize this gigantic circle. Just see this gigantic circle. And this circle represents the entire universal life experience. So everything, every life experience possible could fit inside the circle. In the middle of the circle stands this great, gigantic, four-sided pyramid. So there's this pyramid rising out of the circle, and the points of its base touch the edge of the circle on the inside. But it is inside the circle. So each of the 4 points touches the circle. The sides of the pyramids rise to the heights in our visualization here, to the heights of higher consciousness, which is called a point of freedom. The sides have names, and they're named God, service, society, and self. The whole structure is a symbol of a balanced and fulfilled life. As we examine it closely, we see that the base of the pyramid, which is named goodwill, fills almost the entire field of the circle, except for 4 separate small edges, which are straight on one side and curved on the outside. So those are the edges. This huge, gigantic base of goodwill. And we'll see, just think about this. This base of goodwill, the sides rise out of a base of goodwill balanced between God, service, society, and self to a point of freedom. The edges, around the edges, are all the other life experiences that we could have. They do not rise to the point of freedom. Those are the areas of suffering. Those are, we're still in, and this is important for this illustration. Everybody is inside the circle. But only those that are inside the base of goodwill can rise in consciousness to a point of freedom. We're all in there, but we got to get inside that base of goodwill. And so this is the spiritual aspect of it. Just think about it. These areas that are on the edges, they're not named, but they're surely not a desirable state. So let us be of goodwill. Let us be agents of goodwill. What is best for everyone involved, which of course includes us. And then we affirm. This is our prayer for this third step. Our prayer for the third step is let my will be aligned with goodwill. That's enough.